Welcome to Beyond the Veil, the channel that unveils the mysteries hidden between myth, history, and legend. Here, we explore what lies behind the stories that have passed through the centuries, because every myth has a grain of truth. If you too are fascinated by the unknown, subscribe and get ready to look beyond the veil of reality. In the heart of the darkest fairy tales and the nightmares that lurk beneath the bed dwell cunning, mischievous, and sometimes merciless creatures, goblins. They are not mere monsters nor simple antagonists. They are guardians of chaos, bringers of trouble, beings who have haunted folklore and collective imagination for centuries. Small, nimble, with crooked smiles and eyes that gleam like gems in the dark, goblins hide where we least expect them, in the folds of an ancient legend, behind a creaking door, or even in our most unsettling dreams. In today's video, I'll take you on a journey through the origins, transformations, and hidden meanings of these elusive beings. We will uncover who goblins truly are. From trickster spirits to power-hungry fiends, from mind-dwellers to soul hunters in the darkest of fairy tales. Prepare yourself, because today we unveil the most twisted side of folklore, filled with sharp laughter, stolen trinkets, and traps woven deep within the roots of the night. Goblins were not born in the modern world, nor are they mere fantasy inventions. Their shadow stretches back through the centuries, with roots sunk deep in a distant, fog-shrouded past. The very word, goblin, comes from the medieval French gobelin, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Some scholars trace the term back to the ancient Greek kobolos, meaning rogue, cheater, or trickster. Already a perfect portrait of their shifting, devious nature. The Greek koboloi were mischievous spirits, both worshipped and feared, sometimes linked to Dionysus, the god of intoxication and creative chaos. These spirits were depicted as twisted, lustful beings, ready to mock and mislead men, just as goblins would centuries later in European lore. It's no coincidence that the German kobold and the Welsh goblin share the same root. In all these cultures, the core idea remains the same. Small, capricious, deceitful entities often tied to the earth, to mines, to the deep and hidden places of the world. Over the centuries, goblins begin to appear in the medieval tales of Northern Europe, consistently described as treacherous, sometimes malevolent creatures capable of corrupting or leading night travelers astray. In some versions, they live in deep caverns and feed on precious metals. In others, they steal children, swap cradles, or infest homes with cruel pranks, always teetering between the mischievous and the demonic, between household folklore and frontier legend. Their form varies from culture to culture, but what unites them is their elusive, ambiguous essence. Goblins are spirits of disorder, of trickery, of nature's dark side. They should not be underestimated. Behind their crooked laughter and small stature lies an ancient, wild, and primordial power. In the folds of European folklore, goblins move discreetly, but their presence is everywhere. They do not scream, march, or invade, they creep in, like dust beneath floorboards, like distant laughter in the dark. In some regions they were feared, in others respected, but no one dared ignore them. In France, especially in Normandy, goblins were spoken of as small beings that haunted castles and noble homes, hiding among roof beams and disturbing sleep with strange noises. It was said that once a goblin entered a house, it would never leave, unless bribed with gifts, sweets, or shiny coins. They were spirits of daily chaos, tipping over pots, making keys vanish, or knocking things down without explanation. They didn't kill, at least not always, but they could turn a peaceful home into a domestic nightmare. In England, folklore offers us the hobgoblin, a milder variant, yet no less dangerous. This household spirit sometimes helped with chores, and other times ruined everything just for fun. Shakespeare himself mentions Puck, a form of hobgoblin, in A Midsummer Night's Dream, making him the symbol of magical cunning and moral ambiguity. Puck is neither good nor evil. He is spirit, therefore unpredictable. In the Swiss and German Alps, goblins take on a darker, wilder form. They become intertwined with kobolds, mine spirits who help miners, but only if treated with respect. An offended kobold can cause cave-ins, make tools disappear, or even damn the soul of anyone who dared mock him. In many tales, the line between goblin and vengeful spirit blurs. Those who dwell beneath the earth carry with them ancient, ruthless, and incomprehensible laws. In Welsh folklore, we find the koblinow, mine spirits who tap on rocks to reveal the presence of precious metals. They too are small and enigmatic, goblin-like, but more mysterious, as if the stone itself had given them form and will. From north to south, east to west, the goblin changes face, but never nature. Always small, yet incredibly powerful. Always ridiculous, yet feared. It is the personification of doubt, of sudden failure, of the tiny detail that ruins everything. A being that makes you stumble, laugh, and then regret. Although goblins have deep roots in European folklore, their shape, or rather their essence, can be recognized in many other traditions around the world. As if every culture had birthed its own trickster creature, eerie and hybrid, halfway between spirit, demon, and minor deity. Goblins know no borders. They transform, adapt, take on new names and forms, but at their core, they remain the same. In Korean folklore, there are the dokkaebi, trickster spirits with monstrous and often grotesque appearances, born from discarded or forgotten objects. Dokkaebi are powerful, often wielding magic or enchanted weapons. They may reward those who show courage, but also deliver bizarre and cruel punishments to the greedy or arrogant. Both revered and feared, they live on the fringes, abandoned places or wild nature. Much like their European cousins, they embody chaotic and unpredictable energy, neither wholly evil nor entirely benevolent. In Brittany, we find the korrigans, fairy-like beings who dwell in springs, forests, and ancient ruins. Though closer to fairies than goblins, korrigans share a moral ambiguity and a deep bond with the land. They are guardians of portals, keepers of secrets, and spirits of vengeance. They seduce, deceive, steal children, and avenge offenses. They appear as beautiful women until they reveal their true eyes, red, hollow, ancient as the night. In Welsh legend, we meet the goblinow, mine spirits who either aid or mislead miners. Their name closely resembles that of the German kobolds, and not by chance. They appear as small bearded men, carrying lanterns and pickaxes, tapping rhythmically to reveal veins of gold, but only if treated with respect. Otherwise, everything vanishes. They are the invisible guardians of the earth's depths, beings suspended between goblin and spirit guide. And we cannot forget Japanese folklore creatures such as the tengu and oni. Though often larger and more demonic, they too represent the other, wild, unpredictable forces capable of destruction or enlightenment. Tengu, in particular, delight in testing monks and exposing human hypocrisy, just as a goblin might test a traveler's arrogance. In every culture, the goblin archetype reappears in new forms: the trickster spirit, the liminal creature, the hidden guardian of the border between the human world and the magical realm. And what if these similarities were more than coincidence? What if goblins were not just folklore, but a universal idea, an ancient face that humanity keeps recognizing, wherever it may be? Over the centuries, goblins have crept out of the hearth of popular legends and into the pages of books, role-playing games, and eventually screens all around the world. From ink to pixel art, their figure has undergone countless transformations, but never lost that unsettling spark that makes them instantly recognizable. They are chaos in miniature, the archetype of the sneaky, dangerous little being that stirs up fear, disgust, and, let's admit it, a twisted kind of fondness. One of the first to bring goblins into the literary spotlight was George MacDonald, in his 1872 novel The Princess and the Goblin. Here, goblins live underground, are deformed and brutish, and plot against humanity. The story blends fairy tale tones with a gothic atmosphere, but already lays the foundation for a recurring image. Goblins as beings emerging from darkness to prey on the weak and upend the natural order. In the 20th century, goblins enter the world of fantasy in full force. In The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien often refers to them as orcs, but in The Hobbit and early drafts of his legendarium, goblins are used explicitly. Tolkien's goblins are vile, aggressive creatures living in damp caves with a hatred for sunlight. They are not highly intelligent, but they are cunning, ferocious, and skilled at building traps and weapons. This portrayal has deeply influenced all of modern fantasy. Then came role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons above all. Here, goblins became a monstrous race, among the first that new adventurers encounter in dark dungeons, small, cowardly, but deadly in numbers. Yet D&D gave them depth. Subraces, societies, deities, and culture. In some settings, goblins can even be playable characters, blurring the line between monster and individual. This evolution added nuance, allowing them to be tricksters, survivors, even unlikely heroes. In films and series, goblins appear in 1,000 forms, from the grotesque henchmen in Labyrinth, starring David Bowie, to the sharp-eyed bankers in Harry Potter. Goblins are reshaped by each narrative need. They can be comical, sinister, clever, or disturbing. In The Witcher or The Elder Scrolls, they take on new traits, evolving once more. In many video games, they are often low-level enemies, yet essential to world-building, giving life to the dark corners of fantastical worlds. And finally, there's satire. In modern culture, the goblin has become almost symbolic of our most primitive instincts. Selfish, greasy, but weirdly lovable. There are memes, comics, and even entire subreddits devoted to goblin mode, a parody of the human being embracing chaos, hoarding shiny things, and indulging in unrestrained appetite. In short, goblins are everywhere. They've evolved, changed faces, slipped into different forms, but they've never truly disappeared. Because deep down, we need them. They're the discordant voice in the chorus, the joke that gets out of hand, the creature that laughs when the gods weep. And even today, they continue to gleam in the dark with their greedy eyes, just waiting for the next story to begin. Behind their mask of mischievous evil, goblins represent far more than simple fairy tale monsters. They are distorted mirrors of the human soul, personifications of repressed urges, chaotic instincts, and forbidden desires. They are what is banished from ordered society, but never truly disappears. It hides, it returns, and it laughs. In traditional symbolism, the goblin is the guardian of chaos. It appears where there is imbalance, in a house filled with quarrels, in a village that has lost faith, in a mine desecrated by greed. Its presence is not random, it is consequence. Where order is broken, the goblin slips in and becomes its messenger. Many legends speak of goblins who steal babies, confuse travelers, or ruin harvests. But beneath the surface, what they truly disturb is our sense of safety. They remind us that even the familiar can turn against us. The cradle, the road, the soil. They are the voice of doubt, the mockery that breaks the ritual. In this role, they resemble many archetypal figures: the trickster, the shadow, the sacred fool. In Jungian psychoanalysis, we might say the goblin embodies a part of our shadow self, that which we repress, but which acts from the darkness of the subconscious. A goblin may be the part of us that sabotages success, that delights in disorder, that enjoys breaking the rules. It is the inner saboteur, but also the initiator, the one who paradoxically drives the hero to action by disrupting his world. In folklore, goblins are often not to be destroyed, but understood, bargained with, appeased, offering milk, coins, a song, or a story. It's not superstition, it's ritual, a way to integrate disorder without being consumed by it. In this sense, goblins are teachers. The shadow must not be ignored, but listened to. And so, every time a small, grotesque, malevolent creature appears in a tale, we know it carries a message, that nothing is only what it seems, and that even horror has something to teach us. Goblins are not just fairy tale monsters or enemies to defeat in games. They are fragments of ancient folk wisdom, living shadows that have followed us for centuries, hidden between the lines of stories, in the whispers of the wind through the forest, in the unexplainable sounds of the night. They speak to us of chaos, of doubt, of the tragic irony of existence. They are the voice that doesn't follow the script, the one that challenges us, that questions us, that dares us to look into the dark without turning away. So the real question isn't just what are goblins, but rather, where do they live today, in our fears, in our mistakes, or maybe in those strange moments when we laugh, even as the world seems to fall apart. And you? Have you ever met a goblin? In a dream, in a legend, or maybe, just maybe, in a mirror? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which stories have touched you, frightened you, or made you smile. If you enjoyed this journey beyond the veil of folklore, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next episodes.